We always know what the team is doing. I never know what they're doing, but Mace, are they getting better? And how much better can this Broncos defense be? That's what we're going to talk about on OBT2. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. And yeah, I thought your Zach Allen question really prompted this show.
The question, which one? The question that I asked Sean Payton about Zach Allen?
Yes,
That,
about what, kind of what are you looking forward to for this season?
yeah, I was nearly at a point of frustration there because every time I tried to ask, somebody else talked over me and got their
Yeah.
question in. That was, that format sometimes pisses me off.
Yes.
I'm
Well,
not
it
gonna.
pisses me off in training camp because we get our friends, but the people that aren't every day, like you and me.
Yeah.
Like, I think there should be a pecking order where it's like you and Troy and Mike, like, the day of Parker, our buddy
Yes.
CT, Chris Thomason, shouting him out again,
Yes.
like, and then everybody else.
I concur. I'm fine with that.
That's just me. Should I
There,
play? Because we actually have the clip when you finally
well,
got it in on Zach Allen.
yeah, I asked Sean Payton what he thought the ceiling for Zach Allen was. Now, I talked with Zach last month about this defense. First of all, of course, he's played his entire career for Vance Joseph, but he said this is kind of more of a pure Vance Joseph defense. It's simpler. It's about attacking more. And so I didn't ask like about Sean Payton about Zach Allen like fitting in the scheme, but more just take okay, second year here. They've made some upgrades on the defensive line. What's the ceiling for Zach Allen going forward? I think there's a lot to chop up here. So let's hear from Sean Payton.
Good question. Well, I would still say if you asked him, he still feels like there's growth, and I think generally speaking, when you get good on one side of the ball, then your better players have a chance to really excel. And I think that the depth that around him has a chance to benefit him. So I don't want to set a bar because I've seen it exceeded too many times.
The depth around him has a chance to benefit him.
Yep.
That's a very key line there. Talking
Yes.
about John Franklin Myers and Malcolm Roach, two guys the Broncos brought in. They also brought in Angelo Blackson, who I think can end up sticking on the back end of the depth chart there.
Sure.
And of course, you've still got DJ Jones, although DJ Jones seems to kind of be assuming a a less primary role on this defense. I think they're going to try to get there to have him be really efficient in terms of how many snaps he works. I mean, if I was kind of looking at the defensive line today, I'd say you're looking at the guys you keep being John Franklin Myers, DJ Jones, Malcolm Roach, Zach Allen, Matt Henningsen, Angelo Blackson. If they're healthy, it's going to be tough seeing somebody kind of work their way in and because someone like Henningsen is like he can play any of the three spots. He's smart. I mean, this is also sort of paying attention to how they're using guys. And when we at the start of practice, if you go out to training camp, make note of who's on what field because there's field 1 and field 2 when they go through the walkthrough period, and that usually gives you a nice illumination between that and special teams, who's on some of those first special teams units, as for like, the guys that'll stick. And that's why I think you see Henningsen and Blackson being the two guys that kind of end up filling out that D line room.
Field 1 and Field 2 sends a message. I still want to see more Elijah Garcia, but we've got JFM talking on Zach Allen. But before we go there, Mace, there were significant things from Payton in your answer. You got the good question. But then he says, when you get good.
Yeah.
And my mind went to, okay, Vance Joseph. Okay. Yeah. That coach expects that side of the ball to be good, really good.
Yeah. It did get better after the early season debacles.
Sure.
There's definitely a demarcation of getting Baron Browning in the lineup and that defense getting better. By the way, Baron Browning had a great play against the run today.
Ben Powers did not have a good day.
No.
We talked
Yeah,
about that in OB2 at
yeah.
4:00. So,
But Baron Browning, Zach Allen, and John Franklin Myers were wreaking havoc today.
Whew.
All three of them. It's funny with Baron Browning, I was like, okay, he hasn't really made any plays yet. Let's see what happens when the pads go on. Pads went on.
We saw it.
Yep. Pads went on for Zach Allen. We saw it. Zach was dominant today. Absolutely dominant. Like I thought, I'm not sure I want to bring this up to Sean Payton because you know how he feels about, hey, who's the best player out there? I thought Zach Allen was the best player on the field today.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. I think there's no doubt about that. And John Franklin Myers, such a significant addition. He talked about his new teammate in Zach Allen.
Yeah, I think, you see Zach play and you see a guy who can win with power. He can win with speed. He can win with any type of move that he throws out there. So having somebody across from you on the opposite side of you who kind of sees the same thing and you're able to work some of those protections, work some of those games when it's time, it is the hardest thing because a lot of people don't see that. And, just through the conversation, through the little bit of practice that we've had, just getting a chance to work some of that stuff, bounce ideas off each other is only going to make us that much better.
Them working together, you like seeing that. And, one of the things that was going on last year is that Zach Allen, he actually, on balance, had a season that roughly reflected what you paid to get him. As an interior pass rusher, if you get 5 sacks and 24 QB hits, that's a good year. And it's a good year, even though you looked around and DJ Jones was struggling. Mike Purcell, he's not back. I think that probably tells you kind of, where he fit in the scheme of things. They looked at that area and said, that's what has to be upgraded. I mean, you had to go get a quarterback, but on the defensive side, they decided with what resources they did have to make this team better relative to the salary cap, they went whole hog on the defensive line. That's why you have Malcolm Roach. That's why you have JFM. And oh, by the way, that's why you brought DJ Jones back. And I think it was interesting because you looked at that contract. You could have created some cap space there with DJ Jones, but there's no restructure involved. DJ's back for the 3rd year of his deal on the terms that existed before, which I think also says a lot about what they're hoping to get out of him. Even though I expect his snap count will go down, I think you'll see him be more effective during the snaps that he plays.
Yes, being more efficient, being fresher out there. Yeah. There'll be a rotation up front because they got dudes now.
Yeah.
Like last year, we can hope that a young player like Elijah Garcia does more, but now they've got proven veteran dudes like Roach, like JFM, and they're a joy to be around. These guys are awesome personalities.
Probably more spirit in that position group than any other on the team. And it's a good group of personalities. I mean, Malcolm Roach is kind of the boisterous, character. And then you've got Henningsen is kind of like he's the plugger and he's like the intellectual
lunch
type.
pail.
Yeah. He's the lunch pail type. And he's the guy who literally could be doing anything he wants in the world, but he'd rather just go out there and, get a couple of pressures in practice like he's had the last couple of sessions out there. So, it's a fascinating group in there that they have, but one that I think is going to go from a weakness to a strength. Now, the question it's worth bringing up, because I'm sure some may ask about this. What about Enia Wazirike? He's still technically suspended. He's got to have his suspension rescinded by the league. That wasn't eligible to happen until 1 year after the gambling suspension. But when you get a gambling suspension like he did, until the league rescinds it, it's considered a lifetime ban. And then they revisit it after 1 year. It's not 1 year suspension and you're out. It's considered, especially with some of the stuff that's being alleged that's holding this up, that's currently an investigation going on in Arapahoe County that involves making not only bets, but bets on Broncos games when he was a part of the Broncos. So it's a little more complex. And if you get him in there, great. But hey, every day he's not out there, the clock keeps ticking and the train keeps on going without him.
Yeah, and they didn't wait around. They went, they got John Franklin Myers, they went and they got Malcolm Roach. And let's hear from Coach Sean Payton on John Franklin Myers and what the coach thinks.
It was good. I want to watch the tape. You know, he's a player. If you study his history, and I mean, his production, he's very consistent year in and year out, what he's done. And generally speaking, what we saw was the physicality of how he plays. You know, he's not a guy that's going to take an edge all the time, but he's going to get push and disrupt the pocket in a way that's problematic, just as a sack would be. But certainly a player like him is going to stand out more with pads than in the offseason.
And he took a step forward today.
Oh, big one.
Thought it was, and he's had some good days without pads, but I thought this was his best day of the days that we've seen now. 5 off-season practices, 5 training camp practices, including the 2 acclimation days. There's been one with pads, and that was JFM's best day. Best day overall for the defense. Really took the measure of the offense today. There wasn't much room to operate. And even before the pads went on too, because in 7-on-7, you had some pretty tight coverage there, especially when Bo Nix was out there. It caused some problems for Bo Nix, who had the dreaded scramble in 7-on-7.
Yeah, we talked about that on regular OBT, so go watch that and subscribe here on YouTube and watch all of us on OBT. But defense wins, and it's kind of an acclamation for pads because, as we've mentioned, it was a shorter practice, which I don't like.
It's a shorter practice, but you look at the schedule. By Wednesday, those practices are supposed to go till 12:30. This one went till about 11:35 when
11:25.
Yeah, I mean, when we got the word up in the tent up top, the viewing tent, that it was time to go down, I think we were all like, "What? There are 2 more periods left?" No, only one. It was a short, quick in and out.
Yeah, but this defense can definitely be strong against the run.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily what they needed to do, let the guys on the back end work. And I'm sure a guy like Alex Singleton is going to be really because he'll keep the big bodies off of him.
This is the thing. No matter who ends up lining up at linebacker next to him, and you'd have to say Cody Barton's the favorite here, although I'll tell you,
sure,
LaVale Bailey just keeps making plays out there.
He does.
But whoever lines up next to Alex Singleton, he and Singleton are going to have it considerably easier than Singleton and Josie Jewell had it last year. I mean, just you want some nightmare fuel? Watch the Broncos Jets film last year. Watch how easily the defensive linemen are taken out by the Jets offensive linemen. Watch how much space there is in the box. I mean, that was really the run defense. Even though the Miami game was bad, it was terrible against Chicago. It was terrible against the Jets. I mean, it was at that point, it was like, this is just an atrocious run defense. How are they going to get it fixed? To their credit, it got much better, although there were some hiccups. For example, against Detroit there down the stretch. The Lions, but the Lions kind of did that on the ground against the Broncos because they had so many weapons and you just kind of got into pick your poison mode. So that was less about being stout against the run and more that Detroit and Miami were those 2 teams that just had too many skill weapons for the Broncos to contain. That was
too much speed.
Yeah, too much speed, too much skill. That was a level that the Broncos couldn't handle. I'd have to say, when you look at the schedule this year, do you see an opponent that has that much skill that the Broncos might have trouble containing?
The speed is not there necessarily, but I just look at what Pittsburgh does.
Yeah.
They know they're going to run the ball, and I don't care if it's Wilson or Justin Fields. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren can be a problem.
The other one I think that could be a problem is Atlanta.
Oh, yes. Bijan Robinson's going to do his best Christian McCaffrey impression this year.
that's a team that if whoever, Kirk Cousins likely, whoever ends up at quarterback, if they just hit their marks and go to the open man, they're going to put up points.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
yeah. That's the one. That's one of the games I look at on the schedule, and I think there's a lot of people who think that's a dub, and I don't know. I like Atlanta to make a big leap this year. I think they'll be the class of the NFC South.
Yeah, you've got it as an L. I've got it as a W. So I always reference my little note card with our schedule predictions.
But there are a few teams that, in terms of the pure quantity and quality of skill players, are going to cause this defense some problems still.
I like the fact that Vance Joseph is under pressure, and they gave him a lot of help. That's right. That's right. We're under pressure to grow our YouTube channel, but we need your help doing that. How can they do that, Mace?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you never miss a vid. That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.